Good evening. Thank you. My name is Edward Pan, and I'm one of the co-president, PTA co-president here at Honorary High School. Welcome to the PTA monthly meeting. I'm glad I see a big turnout tonight. I hope that it will happen every month that we have a PTA meeting right here. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to vote for acceptance of the January 19 meeting minutes. Susan, do we have the minutes, Susan? I think the date is wrong. The date should be February. So, that means the last month's meeting. Michael? Any second? Anyone second? Thank you. So the next thing on the agenda. All right, thank you. The next on the agenda is the guest speaker. We are very honored to.
She's not here yet.
She's not here yet.
No, she's not here yet. So
I'm gonna have the principals.
Daphne, can you speak? So do Daphne first.
All right, so because
notice.
the principal person is not here yet, so we're gonna skip that at the moment, and we're gonna ask the parent coordinator report from Daphne. Thank you.
Hi, good evening everyone. Thank you for coming. Okay, it's just a few things. Like always, I want to thank everybody for coming. It's nice to see so many faces, and I appreciate. I know it's during the week, we're tired, tomorrow's going to snow, but I'm glad you guys are here. One of the main things I want to give you a heads up, on the calendar is going to be a big change for 2 days, and it will be for March 17th and March 30th. The students are going to be dismissed at 11:35 in the morning. It will be put up as an addition in the website, and so you will be able to see it, and it's going to be sent an email home to everyone. With that said, keep in mind that if you don't get my weekly news, please make sure you send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to set you up with an account. And okay, I hear a lot of noise, and I thought that maybe I'll be cut short. Okay, the rest is to remind you that we have the open house on the 14th for accepting students if we're not snowed in or snowed out. And if you have a chance and you can come and help out, I'll be more than happy to have you with us. It's a very important day for the incoming parents to talk to parents that are already here. So if you have any time to donate, just give me an email or just come on in. You can come anytime. If you only have an hour, it's okay. We will appreciate your help from 5:30 on March 14th. The 16th is called the Junior Night, and it's a college night, and it's a very important night. You will get more information tomorrow when I send you the weekly news, but it's when you're going to have, they're going to explain what the senior year is all about, and you will be able to talk to some of the guidance and some college representatives. And that will be on the 16th, and it starts at 7 o'clock. Then we have, don't forget that we have Parents Teacher Conference, and that will be on the 23rd and the 24th. The 23rd is on the afternoon, and it starts at 6:30. And on the 24th is at 12:30. And that's a very important, that's when you get a chance to talk on one-on-one with your teachers. And we have in April 5th, I think, hold on a minute, April 5th is the next principal's breakfast. And if you have any questions or anything, keep in mind I'm only a phone call away or an email away. If I'm not at my desk at the moment you call, just make sure you leave your telephone number clearly and slowly, because sometimes I get 718-539, now I'm for 5. And I don't catch the last two numbers, and the only thing I can do is just delete it. And it's not that I didn't call you back because I didn't want to, it's just that I didn't get your number. Or you get a telephone number, people start talking, telling me the telephone number, and in the middle I hear because you're calling from a cell phone and you don't realize I never. Or have even a better call. They don't leave me a telephone number because they think I have caller ID, which I don't. So, but anyway, if you don't hear from me from 24 hours, please do call again. That means something happened, and that's why I wasn't able to reach you. I do try to call you within the 2 hours you call me. Anyway, I wish you all a happy evening, and I'll leave you here with Ms. Carlick. Okay, and thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, Daphne. Okay, unless no one heard me from before, Ms. Katz is on her way. She should be here momentarily, so we are waiting for her to come. So we're going to move along with the other agenda items. So next we will have a principal's report, and here is our interacting principal, Ms. Jahoda.
Thank you, Ms. Carlick. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to the PTA. Glad to see all of you here this evening. March is a very important month. We are getting ready for programming of courses for next year. So I just wanted to share with you some of the dates that are coming up. On March 20th, we'll be publishing our new course catalog, and I encourage all of you to take a look at that with your children. Think about the courses that your child might like to take as seniors, even if they are underclassmen, and work backwards. Think about what prerequisites they would need to fulfill in order to take those classes. I also encourage you to take a look at the Queens College catalog for elective courses that they might be interested in taking as seniors. And again, think about the prerequisites, because that is something that is open to all of our seniors. They get to take 12 credits at Queens College, half of which are electives, and I'd like to see us take advantage of the wide variety of courses available to us. So that's the first step, is taking a look at the catalog. Then on March 27th, it's elective day. So your children will learn about the different courses from their teachers throughout the day in all of their classes. And then the course registration will open March 28th and then close on April 4th. So those are the important dates that are coming up. I'd like you to really have a nice conversation with your child and plan ahead. Even if you're a freshman, you could be thinking about that end game. What are the courses that you'd like to finish with in your 4 years here at Townsend Harris? Okay, any questions about course registration? Okay, excellent. Okay, the other item that I'd like to bring to your attention is that we are considering changing the cell phone policy for next year. So I've had an opportunity to meet with the faculty and with the student union, and I'd like to share with you where we stand with that and get some feedback from you as parents. Currently, students are only allowed to use the cell phone in areas where their teacher allows them to use them for instructional purposes. That could be the library allows it, or a classroom teacher. They're allowed to go to the guidance office to make phone calls, right? And seniors are allowed to use it in the senior lounge. So what the students are proposing is that we extend that to the cafeteria during lunch bans, right? So that underclassmen could also use their cell phones again, for instructional purposes. We're not talking about texting or social media or making phone calls, but they would be able to use their cell phones in the same way that other students use iPads or laptops. You know, in this way, everyone has the same access. This would be limited to just during the school day. After the school day, as we just discussed, in the SLT, students are allowed to use their cell phones to make phone calls. So do we have any concerns or feedback about this proposed change in the cell phone policy?
Why did it wait until now? It's almost, the year's almost over.
We've been discussing this all year. And this again is not for this year. This is proposed for September 2017. Yes.
How would you enforce that it's actually being used as for instructional and everything, right? Like not people are gaming on the phone or iPad. How do you enforce that?
It is a challenge, and oh sure. The question was, how do we enforce that the cell phones are being strictly used for instructional purposes? It's a challenge, right? The dean, she's here, she can speak for herself, but she's asked that the entire staff, right, be consistent about if they see a student using a cell phone in a way they're not supposed to use it, to take the ID and assign a demerit. It is a challenge though, and our students are, you know, usually pretty good about following the rules. So there will be monitoring as much as possible, but I think the students realize that they don't want to not abide by the rules because then we would have to revisit the rules, right? Okay? So it's on an honors basis mostly, but again, if a staff member observes a student misusing the cell phone, we are expected to report it in these schools.
Just to clarify that the cell phone policy was proposed at the beginning of the year, okay, when interacting principal came in, but it wasn't really spoken about until January. It was kind of like pushed off to the side for a little, so it wasn't really discussed all year. We really just started revisiting it in January, okay, and we just had our first meeting yesterday with Ms. Oberlander to try to tweak what we were trying to discuss and to maybe open it up in here, but I still have reservations about it as the dean of the school, and I made that known yesterday at our meeting, that I still feel that if we give a little, the kids are going to take a lot, okay? And you can't always monitor them, and the problem is we have lack of great supervision down in the cafeteria at all times, so it's very hard to promote them to use their phones if we don't have that supervision, okay? So it's been discussed, but it's really only going forward since yesterday. We're trying to move forward with it. It was discussed at the SLT, not the SLT, the Consultative Council last week. Was that the last meeting? Okay, it was supposed to be talked at the Consultative Council for about 3 months, but it never got to the agenda. It always got pushed back because we never finished. So it really was just discussed at the last Consultative Council meeting, and the kids discussed it and brought up their opinions. And then the faculty, we had a meeting, the faculty talked about their concerns and opinions, and just yesterday, Ms. Oberlander and I sat down with Interim Acting Principal Jahoda to try to come up with some way that we could do it, okay? But it's nothing finalized, and for me right now, I feel that it's March. We should just push it aside and wait until next year, okay? I think we should just keep the policy the same way it is now and just make sure that our teachers enforce the rules with me, okay? Because the kids do take out their phones while they're walking in the hallways, and when a teacher walks by and doesn't say anything, the next kid takes their cell phone out in the hallway, okay? I notice it all day long, and I'm the bad guy here, because I'm the dean, okay? But, so I don't want to change it until we're all on the same page, and everybody has to be on board with that. Thank you.
We're all in agreement that this will be implemented next school year. There have been discussions at a variety of different meetings, including the safety meeting, cabinet meetings. So while it may seem that this is just happening within the last few days, we've had discussions and come back to it. We started at the beginning of the school year at a faculty meeting. This is, a shift for the school, so we don't want to do anything too quickly, and I think it's fair to have all voices heard. That's why we're bringing it to you this evening. So if you have any concerns or suggestions about the cell phone policy going forward, please share them with us.
Videotape something and you put it on Instagram.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you from that distance.
How do you plan to handle a situation where kids will videotape something and put it on Instagram, like in a class or in the cafeteria here? That's because the dean. So we have had a demerit policy in place in Townsend Harris since its existence and its opening. And Selena can attest that the student union made these demerit systems so that Townsend Harris would be different than any other school. Okay, we wanted to set standards that kids were higher than anybody else in the New York City school system. So they organized this demerit system. The principal sat down with them, the AP sat down with them, and they came up with this plan. And they took the DOE regulations, the citywide discipline code, and they matched up the demerits for the discipline code infractions. That's where this demerit system started. And nobody realizes it, that the student union created this demerit system. And it has worked. Since I've been student teaching here in 1989, okay, the demerits work. If a student does something that's inappropriate, and you give them that demerit, that behavior changes, okay? But when the teachers, because whatever reason, they don't give those demerits right now, because times have changed, these behaviors are never going to change. So again, the demerit system is put out to help our students rise above and be better than anybody else. And we expect 110% from our students at Townsend Harris. And we'd like to keep it that way.
But just this simple. The camera use is not allowed with this proposal. So the students should not be using the camera. They should only be using it as a resource and not for taking pictures. Anything else? Yes.
I'm sorry, but how would you? I'm sorry, but how would you monitor if someone's using the camera or not? You
Again,
will have to physically go to that phone and check.
So,
I'm sorry, but I signed to the dean. I think it's a policy that should not be implemented.
which part of the policy are you questioning?
About students using phones in school, in the cafeteria.
Okay, thank you. So how do other parents, you all agree that they should not be allowed to use the phone in the cafeteria? Yes.
As a student, I would just like to point out that we are allowed to use laptops and iPads, and generally speaking, the only reason we use our phones mostly is to use the internet to get on Quizlet.com, which has flashcards. And I cannot tell you how many mornings I sat in the hallway with my textbook and took out my phone in order to study most of the time. Anything that we can do on our phone, we can do on our iPads and laptops. The only difference is that the phones sometimes get better internet connection down here, and when you're trying to study online from Quizlet and online sources, it's easier to use your phone. Anything like Snapchat, calling, texting, I can do it all on my iPad and laptop. So I would reconsider, because phones are very useful when you're studying and freaking out because you can't get internet connection and you can't leave the cafeteria. And I applaud you. Thank you.
Very nicely said. So that was one of the points that was brought up at the student union, that every student does not own an iPad or a laptop. Most of them have phones, and it would make it more fair for everyone to be able to access the internet. Will we be able to monitor everyone's use 100% of the time? No, but that's true for anything, right? So if it's observed, we'll address it. If it's brought to our attention, we'll address it. But our students are very, very compliant, and I think that they will be respectful of the rules, and I'm very optimistic about this moving forward in a positive way.
Why can we not just get better service here, and what's stopping us from getting better connection here as well? Well, that's something that.
Well, that's something we could look into in the future, but it doesn't exist at
I'm
this
sure it's not gonna be
time.
that hard if we have a better.
He's asking about better service here in the cafeteria. It's something that we could look into for the future, but I think the students are hoping for us to, expand the cell phone policy so that they can begin to use their cell phones now. As was already explained, they can access the internet on the cell phone, and we wouldn't need to bring the system down here. Another concern about that is then, using up bandwidth, and that could impact on instructional use also.
And it's money.
And it's
That's
money,
money.
right.
And I think the phones are actually wonderful. There's a lot of friendly persuasion coming from the people who run education for us to use technology. And all my lessons are online, but we don't always have the best internet connection in the classrooms. So my lessons are online. They're available for the students, but sometimes I can't pull it up on the smart board. So we need to dedicate funds to that also.
Thank you.
That's one reason why the phones are a great backup for the failures of our own internet connection.
I think that's the root of the problem. I mean, absolutely, everybody should be able to access their, whatever they think they have, streaming, whatever they're doing, seamlessly. Right?
Well, bandwidth is a concern in all schools, right? Given how we use the internet today, this is an issue in many schools in New York City, and it's something we can address in the future.
I think there's a question in the back.
Is there a question in the back?
No? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Wait, this is Franco?
Yeah, I have one question, Mr. Jahoda. Last week at the district leadership team, one of your two mentors, Francis DeSantis, made some comments about the reporting of our student newspaper. Many of the parents of the students are here. They work tirelessly. She characterized the reporting as fake news. You yourself have said on record that some of the accusations are false. I was hoping that you could comment on Ms. DeSantis' comment and also elaborate on which of the reports of the students are false.
I wasn't present at the meeting, and I'm not going to comment on another person's statement. I don't agree with the comment that our newspaper is fake news. That was never something that I said. I have discussed inaccuracies, but that is not pertaining to our school newspaper.
I have a question. Do you think that Mrs. DeSantis should be here in front of this community, we're all here participating in the community, to disavow that characterization of the journalism that's performed by our students?
The DOE should do a lot of things.
That would be up to Ms. DeSantis. That I can't enforce that.
She is your mentor? Right?
She's not my mentor.
Oh, okay.
Who is she? What is her role?
She's a representative from the DOE that acts as a support liaison for principals.
Does she work under Lindsay?
Yes, she's from Superintendent Lindsay's office.
Can you for a second fathom what she was thinking when she made that statement?
I'm not going to try to characterize a statement that was made at a meeting that I was not in attendance.
It's about the reputation of the very honorable young people.
I'm not assuming that it's about our students. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Jahoda. Okay, yes? No, wait. She's in the building. I'm not sure if she's right outside the door or not. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. So, all right, Briefly, we have here field support from the DOE, Mr. Lawrence Pendergast. If you'd like to say a few words, and it's really concerning the C-30 process. Is that correct, Ben?
Yes, thank you, Susan. Susan had asked for someone to give an update on the C-30 process. My name is Lawrence Pendergast. I'm the Executive Director of the Queens North Field Support Center. We support schools in districts 24, 25, 26, and 30. Townsend Harris High School is one of the school communities that we support.
Excuse me, I'm so
She's
sorry,
here?
but
She's here, okay.
Very happy.
Look at this, look at Just to say, when I first saw her, I almost started to cry. Honorable Katz, I have to say, has been the biggest support that our school has ever received from any elected official that we have contacted during this whole past 3 months. Not only is she tenacious to help us in our circumstances, she has everyone's ear, and I'm sure whoever had written to her an email, she responded back to you. I like to say, for an elected official who demonstrates the democracy of listening to people, that is what listening means. She listens, she responds. It's not a one-sided conversation, as I've been saying previously with other members of the DOE. She responds to everyone who cares, and she cares so much. And I'm honored, I am humbled to introduce Queensborough President Melinda Katz.
Before she starts crying, I got a hand for Susan. First of all, you do have some great elected officials in this community. And I want you to know I spent 5 years in the New York State Assembly. I was, it was 24 years ago when I was in the Assembly. I was 10. And now you have a great elected official in Assemblywoman Nily, Rozic, who has joined us here tonight as well. And we want to thank Susan and Ed for all the great work that they have done. I want to thank our UFT, Franco. I mean, come on. And I would like to point out Deb Dillingham, our representative on the PEP coming on with the High School Association. And again, my name is Melinda Katz. I have the honor of being the president of this great borough of Queens. And I apologize for being a few minutes late. My 8-year-old has picked up the stomach flu that everyone has had. And in between, I got to be a mom also. I went home and made sure that they were okay in between events. So it has been some ride. Let me first thank everyone in this room. You guys really fight the fight every single day. You are fighting for your children's education. You're making sure that your voices are heard. And, I have been doing this literally, and I joke about my age a lot, but I am 51 years old. I have a AARP card and a 6-year-old. And I have been in this business a very, very long time. I look around this room and I see folks that are simply fighting for a better life for their children than they ever dreamed of having themselves. And it is the reason that we entrust our children to the New York City Department of Education. It is the reason we are involved in our parents' associations. It's the reason that we elect people like Susan and people like Ed to be the PA presidents so that the voices in the room are heard. And for 24 years, literally, I have had a fight about the C-30 process. And when Deborah and I talked about her representing us on PEP, and when Nancy and I spoke about it years ago,
Our kids are in the same neighborhoods, sort of. It has always been an issue. And I have to tell you, it's just sort of culminated in Townsend Harris, right? Because over the years, it's happened at so many schools. And I have, for 24 years, maintained that the C-30 process at every level should be transparent, and we should lift that veil of secrecy on that process. It's something we talked about 20 years ago. I mean, literally 20 years ago. I was an Assemblywoman in Forest Hills, and one of my schools was going through the same thing, and 24 years ago, or 23 years ago, I called up and I said, well, all right, guys, who'd you recommend? And they're like, we can't tell you. I'm like, what do you mean you can't tell me? Just tell me. Stop fooling around. And they said, no, we can't tell you. I called up Department of Education. I'm like, tell me who the school leadership team. Level 1 committee recommended. They said, we can't tell you. And since then, it's happened time and time again. And so I want to thank the Parents Association, the teachers, and everyone who have brought this to light now. And I got to thank your newspaper. Man, they are. You make them tough here at Townsend Harris. They keep getting it, and they keep hitting back and hitting back. And it really is, it's the future of our city. And so we should be very proud. So for many years now, this has been an issue for me. And it's been a pet peeve. And it's an issue because it's wrong. We gave mayoral control years ago and got rid of the Board of Education. For those old enough to remember those days, Board of Education, 5 people raised their hand, right? So for those of us old enough to remember the Board of Education, we gave over mayoral control to the mayor so that there'd be someone to answer, right? So that when parents had issues and teachers had issues and principals had issues and all folks had issues, they could go to one person, they could go to an agency, and that agency could control and have to respond to community input. And honestly, that's my biggest rub with the C-30 process. I don't think they really have to respond to community input. If you have 5 recommendations sent from the superintendent to the committee, and then 5 recommendations go back, and no one can know what those recommendations are, and then the super picks someone and no one can know that, I don't believe you truly have real, effective community input. We are fighting for that for years. Townsend Harris, I have to thank you because you sort of brought it to the forefront of a city fight that we've been having for decades. Nily Rozic is a relatively new assembly member, what is it, 10 years now? Something like that. You age in reverse. She's looking up in Albany for state legislation that might be of help to be able to figure out how to make this transparent. Those of you that read my letter know that I've called upon the Chancellor officially as the Borough President, as someone involved in government, to not only allow the Level 1 committee to see every resume that comes in for every principal's position and AP's position in the city. When you have an application, people apply. The Level 1 committee should be able to look at all the resumes and the applications. They're smart. We could do it. And then the recommendations that the committee gives to the superintendent should also be public. And all of that transparent to have real effective community input. So we continue the fight for it over the generations. I'm hoping that we actually get effective change this time. If we don't get it by the Chancellor herself, I am hoping that the state legislature can pull it together and gather the force up in Albany. It's not always easy to do for New York City issues, I have to tell you. But hopefully they can manage it. And we're here for you. Please keep me on your email list, keep me on your Facebook. let me try to be as much help as we can. Joan Weston from the alumni, I just want to acknowledge her because I got to be honest, for 10 years, ever since her child graduated Townsend Harris, I've heard more from her. So it's been great. And so Susan, thank you so much for having me, having Nily. And I don't know if you want me to take a question or two. I have other events, but I'd be happy, I guess, to take.
Just like 2 or 3, I guess,
Yeah.
Mr. Bob, stop or something.
Yeah, accountability is a word that's used a lot in school governance, and certainly the students feel it and the teachers feel it. What should be the accountability for the people who sent us this stellar candidate for acting principal?
As you know from the letters that I've written to the city, I asked them in December, I asked the Department of Education in December to come in and just figure it out. You know, I mean, it's like as if they don't want to deal with it at the moment. And there's representatives from DOE here and they can talk about it. But at the end of the day, we asked them months ago to start making rhyme or reason in the school. We are one of the best schools, Townsend Harris, in the Borough of Queens. It is a school, a reward school that folks want to get into from throughout the entire city of New York. And something in me says also if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. And they should have come in. I can't answer for that. They should have come in months ago and said, you know what? Whatever the opinion is of whatever leadership is in this school, and I understand Ms. Jahoda's here, and I thank her for sitting in and listening to my words today, but whatever the issue is, when you have protests and thousands of students and a PA and an alumni and all of the unrest, even working with the principal, not working with the principal, working with the teachers, there has to be some leadership shown by DOE. And I think that's really where. So the answer to your question is I don't know why it wasn't. Hi.
So 2 of our APs at Townsend Harris High School who have had decades of experience at the school did put their names in for the C-30 process, and they were not giving interviews. So we want to know what your opinion on that is and what that means.
Well, it's confidential.
One comment though. Would Mr. Pendergast be able to answer that or no?
I'd like to wait till after she finishes.
No, listen, from my perspective, the level 1 committee should be able to interview and able to look at every single resume of every single applicant of everybody who applied for the job. That's my view. So, and just hear me out for a second. The funny thing is, it's not really a surprise for anybody, right? Because my understanding, and this is not, I've become much more of an expert over the last 2 months, thanks to you. So, you know, my understanding is that when you apply for a principal's position, you have to get pre-approved anyway by the principal's pool, right? So you've already shown an interest. It's not like it should surprise anybody that an assistant principal wants to move up to being a principal, right? First of all, it's human nature. Second, you've already went through the principal's pool evaluation and been deemed to meet all the standards. I'm looking at my PEP representative for verification. And third, I mean, I hate to say this, we're all big boys and girls. You apply for another job, normally you tell your boss, right? I mean, they should know that you want to move forward. So the answer to your question is, I would give all the resumes to the level 1 committee, let them choose for themselves the 5 that they want to give back to the super. Understanding that I'm working within the system that's there. There may be a much better system that better minds than us can think about, but this I don't believe is it.
Someone from this side?
Joelle, I would just like to say, we're here as a community. We know that the interim acting principal has been here since the beginning of the year. That students are unhappy, that parents are unhappy, that teachers are unhappy, the administration is unhappy. This community is really unhappy. If there's a C-30 process, and they only get to interview 3 candidates, I want to know if one of them turns out to be the interim acting principal of this school, what do we do? Because it says that the DOE has not listened to anybody here, and that is upsetting to everyone in this room, I'm sure.
You hear, but you don't respond. I mean, they're hearing, because I was at PEP meetings myself. So I was literally talking to Chancellor Farina, but yet after I'm done, I never received any response. So they hear, but what are they doing about it?
The question is, what do we do if that occurs? What's our next step? And since we have someone here from the DOE, do you think that you could answer my question? Because we all want to make sure that the candidates that come before the committee are worthy and will hopefully be successful here and will honor the traditions of this community.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna tell you that I myself have spoken to Chancellor Farina about this, spoken to Deputy Mayor Shores about this. He's the first deputy mayor. I've gone all the way down the line. I have made it very clear that should this process turn out poorly, I'm going to want transparency in the C-30 process. Should this process turn out wonderfully, I'm going to want transparency in the C-30 process, right? So the answer is, though, what to do now, right? There is someone here, Michael is from DOE, but understanding that he's sort of here to take notes and bring them back, and he's a nice guy. Just saying, he's a nice guy. And I think that I can ask Michael to please bring back to your bosses how unhappy folks are. In the meantime, though, the whole point, I'm going to say it again, of mayoral control was to answer to the community. And you can write letters directly to the chancellor, to the mayor, and to the first deputy mayor. And there's a lot of you here, you know, and I'm telling you, as an elected official for 24 years, it helps. It really, really helps. And if you haven't done a letter writing campaign on that, it might be something worth trying. And you do it like within 2 days, and you get all the letters in 2 days.
Actually, we're going to start.
Right.
That's it. One more.
I actually wrote to Carmen, and I got a reply.
Yes.
The reply, and I have to preface it by saying that I'm the parent of a child who received her acceptance letter yesterday. And I'm speaking on behalf of a whole other population of hundreds of parents and children who don't know what to do. They're not working with all the pieces, so they can't make an intelligent decision about what school to choose. Okay? It throws their life into upheaval. It's something that's going to determine their future, the whole life that comes before them. So this is not some insignificant, inconsequential decision that people have to make. And the DOE, in not being forthcoming about anything, is being unfair. So my letter to Carmen explained that, and her reply to me was, there are many good schools in Queens. Townsend Harris will retain its curriculum. And that was the extent of the letter. So there was no addressing of the issue whatsoever, and we're still left in the dark.
So I got a similar letter back to mine. So I share your frustration. Look, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I can only keep advocating with you for a lot of different things. I'm only going to say this. I have 2 kids in public school. My kids go to a great elementary school in Forest Hills, the same one I went to, by the way, only a few years ago. My 8-year-old went to 1st grade in my 62-year-old brother's 1st grade classroom. So, you know, I'm all in on the public schools. I am so frustrated by what's going on at this school. And I literally have said to the administration, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I consider myself a relatively good elected official, relatively good pal, right? I mean, you know, and I don't understand why there's not even this attempt to seem like we're coming in and trying to organize and make sure that at least everything runs smoothly until the C-30 process is finished, whether we love or hate that process as well. I don't understand it. But I do know that people need to hear from you in order to make sure that they understand that it's a big fight and that you're having it. You know, as Ms. Jahoda and I have never actually spoken and talked about the future of Townsend Harris or about educational policies or anything like that. My point is, any school that has such unrest needs leadership by the DOE. It doesn't matter. And so I think that we've sent that message loud and clear. But when it comes to the permanent principle of this school, to keep the information private to the parents who on a daily basis are out there fighting this fight, I think is simply unacceptable. But it only works if folks hear from you about the process as well. And it's not too late. I know March 15th is supposed to be the, I don't know if that's supposed to be public, I don't know. I get so many emails and you know, so many things across Facebook that I know I'm not supposed to understand or know, I don't know. So, but at the end of the day, at the next meeting, yeah, the chancellor could say this is how we're going to do it. You know, we're going to change how we do it. You know, and then you have to present it to the PEP for approval, and I have no doubt that PEP can move fast when they want to. So, right? Yeah, we can. So all I can tell you is I will continue to stand with you. I know Assemblywoman Rozic continues to represent the interests up in Albany, which is not easy to do in Albany. Your PA presidents have been phenomenal in keeping everyone up to date. And I appreciate all of you keeping me in the loops of what's going on here. I came really just to make sure you knew that you weren't just not abandoned. You really are supported by elected officials who care deeply about what happens to your children. So thank you very much for being here.
Ms. Rose, does she want to talk? Nily, do you want to talk?
You want to say hello?
Alex? Okay, so I'm going to introduce Mr. Alex Chen. If you don't know, he's our student union
That
president.
you won't support Alex running for office until I'm ready to leave.
Yes, it's quite appropriate that Ms. Katz told us to mail and to contact the DOE to tell them about how we want transparency and to inform them about the issues going on in Harris. This box contains postcards that are directly addressed to Mayor Rozic, and it would be an honor and usually we can ask Melinda to sign one of these postcards talking about our situation so we can mail them directly to the Mayor's office. So,
Okay, so I wanted to thank again Honorable Katz, Assemblywoman Ms. Rozic. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll move on. We'll continue. Before Ms. Katz came in, we had Lawrence Pendergast speaking, so we'll welcome him back. We didn't forget him.
Good evening, thank you, Susan. I don't know there's anything I can say that the Borough President hasn't captured very, very well. It is okay to say that regarding the C-30 process, that the level 1 committee interview is happening. on Wednesday the 15th. So the next stage is on the way. And it is aligned to New York State law and the Chancellor's regulations. We're following those policies. We do care. We are here listening. We're here taking notes. And not just about the C-30 process. We heard about the bandwidth down here. And turn to Robert Miller, my Director of Operations, and what can we do here to try to see what the situation is and if there's anything we can do about the bandwidth in the room. We're listening. We're here.
I just have a question. If you can elaborate more on the whole process of that day, level 1. When I received word, supposedly we are given, it starts at 4 o'clock. We just found this out today. So Wednesday, which is how many days away? Like 4 or 5 days away, something like that, and 6 days away. And we get the resumes at 4 o'clock. So until that day, we do not know who's right. Is that correct? And we have an hour to deliberate on what we're going to ask. We have time beforehand to know, or we have to sign forms. Just go a little bit on that too.
Sure. And if you came in after I started speaking earlier, again, I'm Lawrence Pendergast from the Field Support Center for Queens North. We serve schools in districts 24, 25, 26, and 30. The C-30 process does involve inviting candidates who have applied for the position to be interviewed. They're interviewed by a committee of your representatives. They're parent representatives, students, representatives from the teachers union, the CSA, which is the administrators union, DC 37, which represents school aides, among other titles. And they review resumes and develop questions for the candidates who are being interviewed. And that process is happening. The issue about the amount of time to review those was raised. Actually, thank you, Mr. Scardino. Where are you? Thank you. He caught me as soon as I walked in and told me about that, and that is, I will relay that to the superintendent. That concern.
Ms. Bam?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please explain why Superintendent Lindsay isn't here herself? There's a lot of questions that only she can answer.
I understand.
Just to say, I literally emailed her to invite her here, and she's declined to come. Just to let you know.
And the question be why?
There's no why. She just says she's not able to attend. If Superintendent Lindsay is here, was invited to come today. I did invite her, and then she responded, at least, saying that she regretfully declined, so she's not able to make it. So she was invited. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Just to make that point, she was invited.
I have a quick question for you. I've witnessed the C-30 process on several occasions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've witnessed the C-30 process on several occasions, and from what I've seen, level 1 basically gives a recommendation. So there can be all the rationality, all the wisdom laid on the table at level 1, and then comes level 2, which is where the superintendent goes behind closed doors on a one-to-one basis with the candidate and then makes a decision. What guarantee is there that the recommendation of level 1 has any effect whatsoever on level 2?
Okay, I can't answer every question there. What I can say is the regulation's very clear. We do take the recommendations of that committee very, very seriously.
Right. It doesn't determine who becomes the next principal. And the problem is that if there's 38 candidates, there's someone who selects 5. It may not be the people we want. They could be the worst candidates. And that's not fair. Then all of these people gather around, they sit, they interview, they do all this work. And for what purpose? Because the bottom line is the superintendent chooses the person, and that superintendent doesn't have to listen to any of the recommendations from the committee. And that's our problem here. So that's why I asked, you know, you hear the tension here. If there's someone who's going to be a candidate that we don't want, how could that possibly happen? And if it does, what can we as a community do about it? Because you can see, you have some people here, I think that it will be worse if we don't know what our next steps should be. I want to know in advance if they get to interview the interim acting principal. Why would she be chosen? And if she becomes principal, what can we do about it? Because then I think it's too late.
The selection criteria for the candidates who are being interviewed, that is a very legitimate question, and that is a question that your representatives on the level 1 committee can raise for you on your behalf at the C-30 process, and you should reach out to them and ensure that question is raised.
But they're not given the other 33 people. If there's 38 people, they're only being given 5 choices. What happens to the 33? And why doesn't our people have a choice to see them, or interview them, or even look at their resumes?
That's the fight that Katz is working on. That's what Katz was saying.
Sir, do you report directly to
Ma'am, I'm not ignoring your question. She responded very well. That is.
She responded to that Ms. Katz is fighting for, but the thing is, you know, who's to say these 5 representatives, these 5 applicants that we're being given could be the worst of the worst? Why are they being chosen?
And again, that is a question your level 1 committee and your parent representatives, they can address that question on Wednesday night.
Wait a minute, I just want one quick question. Can you confirm if Mrs. Jahoda has an interview on March 15th?
I cannot. I am, remember that at the end of the day, this is a personnel hiring process, right? And necessarily, parts of that process are confidential. I don't know who has been invited for interviews and who hasn't. I don't.
Well, we know that
it sounds like you know more than I do.
We know that 2 people didn't get interviewed. And we can make that judgment already right now, which is that the community does support 2 people who were told, you're not even worth an interview. Right. So how is it that this process is remotely fair when the community has spoken that they're interested in those 2 people and they said, no, not even a shot, not even a chance that they will be talking to you? How is that fair?
I understand the question, but that's a question for the committee. That is a question for the committee to the superintendent.
The committee signs confidentiality reports, and the committee can never tell us. So how is it possible that we ask the committee this question if the DOE has them sign confidentiality reports to not talk to us?
And the level 1 has to sign a confidentiality, so we really cannot comment that night.
All right, that's a fair point. We will, it is, but there is a hiring manager and the superintendent can respond to the question. So I was just talking to Robert saying, let's make sure we reach out on behalf of everyone here and say we have concerns about, questions about how candidates were selected for interviews.
Mr. Kenzo? Mr. Kenzo.
Go ahead.
Can you understand why this community has, leave Mr. Jahoda out of the question for a moment, why this community has little to no faith in the Department of Ed? In very simple terms, as Mr. Sweeney said, we've made our feelings known, and it's not really a personal matter. Melinda Katz said the DOE is supposed to come in and organize things, put things together. The DOE has come into this building twice with our children. When Ms. Pinheiro came in and demeaned and disrespected them, and now when Mr. Jahoda is mending their and called the work, the laudable, impressive, gratifying work that these children do, called that fake news. Leave Ms. Jahoda out. She's a step below. Of course, she can't condemn that. Can you respond to that?
I can.
And the feeling that how wonderful these children make us feel that we teach them in history class and in English class to speak up to
what's
seek
right.
out an injustice when one comes along and to use the process and fight that. These kids are far more impressive than anything that is coming into this building of your work. In your office about 38 resumes and we are not even, all we know is 5 came forward. Please tell us why we can trust that you picked the best 5 and that you will even listen to us tell you which one we want when you're not obligated to do that as well.
The fake news comment, I was not at that meeting. It does not represent my views. It does not represent the views of the Department of
It
Education.
represents the person who recommended this woman to be our next principal. She said it. She confirmed that Mrs. Jahoda was okay to be the next principal. So again, it's not about Ms. Jahoda. That's a person from your office who said that's nonsense, she's fine. So please stop using Mr. Babstock. We're disavowing these things. They need to be discussed, and these kids need to be apologized to and congratulated.
In public.